President Trump's top priority for North Korea, denuclearization. A meeting with Kim Jong-un expected in the coming weeks. But President Trump did warn he's ready to walk away from the negotiating table.
I hope to have a very successful meeting. If we don't think it's going to be successful, Mark, we won't have it. We won't have it. If I think that it's a meeting that is not going to be fruitful, we're not going to go. If the meeting, when I'm there, is not fruitful, I will respectfully leave the meeting.
This coming after Secretary of State nominee Mike Pompeo visited North Korea earlier this month. Joining me now is Axios Editor-in-Chief Nick Johnston. Nick, great to see you. What do you make of the president's comments about a willingness to walk away from the negotiating table?
Yeah, as we're reporting on Axios this morning, the president totally views it as his great man moment, where he and he alone in a test of wills with Kim Jong-un can solve this problem. It's get the two of them in a room and they'll hash it out. And I think part of that negotiating strategy, the same I think as he viewed it as a real estate investor, is that the meeting's not going any good, you got to be able to walk right out the door. I think those are the stakes that he's sort of viewing, and those are things, I think the way he's trying to show how he's serious to this, to the Kim Jong-un to go in and negotiate it one-on-one.
It's actually out of a sketch on V, but again, you have to be able to go and walk away from the table. Right. Steve?
Well, he's in his element right now, going offense instead of going there and letting the North Koreans string him along. He's saying, you string me along, I'm out. The key thing, though, rather than how he's going to do it, is what do they hope to accomplish? The North Koreans and the Chinese want to get us out of South Korea and dominate Asia. And so what are they going to try to get out of this? I don't think Trump will agree to withdrawal of U.S. troops, but if there's any hint of that, boy, that's going to have real repercussions. What is the goal? He wants denuclearization. The North Koreans want us out.
Nick, is there any hint of what the United States might be willing to give in these negotiations at all?
No, I mean, Steve hits exactly on the key point of this and how difficult it is. That's like, what do you give for denuclearization? If by withdrawing troops out of South Korea, then exactly right. How do you expand China's sphere of influence? And that's a really tough negotiating point. I know we don't think we have a lot of clarity yet. And I think we'll have to wait until President Trump goes into the room and they bring the cameras in, the same as he did with Chuck and Nancy on the Hill, and they hash it out on live television.
I want to move on because this actually dovetails with the North Korea visit. The nomination of Mike Pompeo is hanging in the balance. Senator Rand Paul is a no vote. He's on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, says he's a Republican, but isn't voting like one. But President Trump is hopeful that Rand Paul will come around. Listen to this.
I think Mike Pompeo is extraordinary. He was #1 at West Point. He was top at Harvard. He's a great gentleman. I think he'll go down as truly a great Secretary of State. I will say this about Rand Paul. He's never let me down. Rand Paul is a very special guy as far as I'm concerned. He's never let me down. And I don't think he'll let us down again.
So all the Democrats, except for one, are a no vote as well on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Chris Coons is still up in the air. But the Wall Street Journal editorial page points out today that every Secretary of State since 1925 has been reported out of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee with a favorable vote, favorably. And it's astonishing to see the pushback from Democrats who voted for Mike Pompeo as the CIA chief, who are now saying no simply because he works for President Donald Trump.
Yeah, I would look at the two things here. It's like Rand Paul is pretty much playing his standard role in the Senate, being a thorn in Mitch McConnell and Donald Trump's side. But I wouldn't count out all the Democrats yet. Republicans are already going after the 10 Democrats up for re-election in Trump states, running ads against them, hammering them on whether or not they will back Pompeo. So I don't think this nomination is nearly as much danger as a lot of people are saying.
Nick, but Hillary Clinton, when she was the Secretary of State nominee, got 2 no votes. John Kerry got 3. Colin Powell, it was a unanimous yay. Condi Rice got 13 no votes. And it's just astonishing. The Journal argues that any nominee who agrees with President Trump is disqualified. That seems to be, you push back on that. That seems to be the stance of some of these Democrats.
I mean, I think that's just the partisan nature of the Hill right now, where there's this large members of both parties who would just completely unilaterally, without thinking, oppose a nominee of another party. Definitely Mike Pompeo will get a lot more than just 13 no votes.
Nick, great to see you. Thank you for
Always
getting
great.
up early, coming in. I know
My
you did.
pleasure.
Thank you, Nick Johnston of Axios.